Welcome back to Prepper Talk Radio for the first time in a long time. Guys, I'm Scott Stallings, one of your hosts, as always. Super excited to be here, and we've got Shane Coles. What's up, my brother?
Happy to be here with
Happy
my other brothers.
And for those of you who have been with us for a long time, you've probably not heard of Paris Clough. He's been a long time friend, but he's now one of our co-hosts with us. Equal share, equal opportunity at the mic. And we're just so excited to have you here. How you doing, Paris?
Doing great, thanks. Pleasure to be here.
Well, now that they've heard our words out of our own mouths, the hellos, I think it's more important that we actually get onto who the crap we are. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, you don't know anything about us. Those of you who've been with us for a long time, we're going to pretend like you've never heard about it before, and we're going to give our origin story. Kind of like Star Wars. Instead of doing text across it, we're just going to have Paris talk about himself first and give us a real understanding of who Paris is, why you got into prepping, and why you're with us now. Like, because we're kind of crazy. Like,
yeah,
we're
awesome. Pay attention. This is a really great story.
Well,
Paris, there's on the hot mic. Go for it.
Right now, origin stories are pretty hot, so we're going to take advantage of that momentum and do it a little origin story. So right around 2014, I kind of woke up to the reality of the world and what's going on. I've really been somebody who, from a religious standpoint, I've kind of been somebody who's paying attention to the last days and, prophecies and book of Revelation kind of stuff. And so 2014, I kind of woke up, just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, wait a minute, I need to be ready for some stuff potentially. And so as I started to study that stuff, I realized I don't have food storage. I don't have, 72-hour kits. I got kids. I have a wife and 5 kids. At the time, I only had a wife and 4 kids. But so fast forward, I kind of started studying more and learning more and wanted to get into the preparedness world. I became an emergency preparedness specialist at my church and started helping others get the bug for preparedness. Wanted to help them get their 72-hour kits, their 3-month supplies of food, their year supply of food, their water supplies, everything, just kind of helping people get ready and get prepared. And in an effort to do that, I was in California at the time, and I really wanted to do something big. And I had some ideas for some quick, little easy, one-day events. And I was looking online for something that I could bring to Fresno. I wanted to, that's where he was from, Fresno, California. So I wanted to bring a bunch of stuff there. And I looked at the fairgrounds and I looked at all the different places to bring some stuff. And then a buddy of mine was like, hey, I just went to this cool event called PrepperCon in Utah. You should call those guys and see if they'll bring and expand and grow into California. And I was like, all right, well, I'll call. So I reached out. I looked on preppercon.com or whatever it was at the time. And I reached out and I made a phone call, and there's like, hey, you need to talk to the guy named Scott Stallings. And he's really the guy who's in charge of all that. So I emailed him and he emailed back. And ended up, we had a great conversation. That first conversation was epic. I really, really appreciated that. It was kind of awesome.
And it was like 2 hours long.
It was awesome. And then he invited me to come and volunteer at the next PrepperCon. And so I did. And I was kind of his gopher that whole time. And that was 2017, I think, right? And then he introduced me to Shane at PrepperCon, and I met Shane. And from 2017 till today, we've just been great friends and really kind of stayed in touch in many ways, and just grown together as brothers. And I moved to Utah last year, 2021, July of 2021, moved to Utah. And so now that I'm here, I was like, you guys, we're in the same state, we're in the same area. Can we please do something again? This is going to be so awesome. And so kind of put a bug in their ear, and I guess it worked, because here we are. So
true. We never intended to quit. We intended to take a break. Mm-hmm. If you go back and listen to our last podcast, we'll be back, and we didn't know when. I mean, I was having a kid in the next couple of weeks, and I'm like, I'm gonna be so busy, and it was nuts. But I'm glad that you didn't let it go. Because we were like, yeah, we'll do it. And life was just busy. And here we are. Finally, it took us 3 years. We're back, right, Shane?
Happy to. And yes, and I'll get more into that when I talk. But I wanted to ask Paris, you have your own specialties. We all have our own little specialties. And yours is both spiritual as well as financial. Why don't you tell us real quick about financial self-reliance?
Well, one of the things that I realized, and this is a cool story actually, because you mentioned the spiritual side of things, and I really have a faithful belief and a strong faithful belief in God and Christ and all that. So I just, there was a point when I realized in order for me to afford a 72-hour kit for 7 people, I'm going to have to make a lot of money, or this is a lot of money. Like I looked at the different kits they had available, like Walmart or wherever. And I was like, I don't want to buy the standard kit off the shelf. I want to build one that's good and got quality stuff in it. Like, I don't want to, I don't want to have a knife that just breaks the first time I use it or something. I'm just whittling something or trying to start a fire and I end up blowing myself up or something because the stuff's crap. Anyway, so I thought it's going to cost me a lot of money. And so one day I was just praying to God and I was like, you know what? God, I'm self-employed, been self-employed my whole life. And so kind of in charge of my own income. It's like, if I work really hard, I make more. If I don't work so hard, I make less. So I was just praying. I said, God, if I'm going to be able to afford to have these 72-hour kits, I'm going to have some money to be able to do it. And that I prayed about what I could do and maybe get a blessing from God to be able to have enough money to pay for it. And it was awesome because that next month I closed a bunch of business and I told God, I said, if I make this much money, I promise I'll use it to buy food storage. I'll use it to buy my 72-hour kits. I'll use it to do all the things. And what was awesome is that God not only gave me that amount of money that I told him that I would use, but he tripled it. He's like, I'll see that money and I'll triple it. And I made a lot of money that month. And I was like, wow. And honestly, I'll be honest with you, like anybody who knows anything about God and the enemy is you get tempted. So I was like, ooh, I got all this money. I could do something else. I'm like, no. I promised God I would use it for my preparedness. And so I realized at that point that, one of the reasons why people aren't prepared maybe is because they don't have money to buy the stuff. Yeah. And so I was a financial preparedness. I'm a financial planner, financial advising, investments and budgeting, all stuff. That's my career. So I was like, if I teach people how to manage their money more effectively and then share with them ways to maybe build up enough cash flow to be able to buy for these things and get prepared properly and use that money, not only to be prepared, but also to, invest for their future. Because future preparedness, retirement preparedness, like preparedness has so many different aspects. And so that's kind of what got me really excited about using my financial business to help people prepare, is recognizing that they needed to have money to be able to buy food storage and buy water storage and buy, equipment, camping gear, 72-hour kits, bug out bags, all that. So that's kind of where I kind of got excited about using financial self-reliance as a way to kind of help people out.
Love it. Awesome. Love it. Yeah. Thank you, Paris.
The best part about all that though is the 3 times God blessed you with 3 times what you had or what you needed. That's like 3 days, right? 3 segments. You could have it went 72 hours is 3 days or 3 times what people think of. Most people have 7 to 10 meals in their home. That's like a day to 2 days. Cause I mean, when you're in panic mode, you eat more. Most people do, right? And so you need more. But when I first started PrepperCon, it was because I realized that in every household in America, the average was that 1 in 7 had more than a 3-day supply of food in their home. 1 in 7. That was a statistic from 2007. And I guarantee it's worse now than it was then. And the way I know that is because inflation's robbing everybody. It's taking, you go to Burger King and your Whopper used to be like 3 for $3 or whatever, or 2 for $3. Now it's like, hey, you can get 2 for $6. And it's just changed in a couple of years.
It's ridiculous.
So grocery shopping, the price of grocery shopping's gone up. Everything's gone up. If you live in California, you're looking at gas prices right now, it's probably insane anywhere you live, but California especially.
It's over $6. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've got to be self-reliant, and that's where preparedness comes from. So to see you go through that, and then the Lord to bless you with triple what you asked for, is a huge sign that you're on the right track.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to point out from that, because that's an amazing experience. I'm so glad you called though, because getting you to that PrepperCon was quite the experience, wasn't it?
It was awesome. It was awesome. It was the start of something great.
Awesome. It really was. And that's funny because that was the end of my reign of PrepperCon Master. I sold it right after that event. But the funniest thing is actually Shane. I think we need to hear from Shane.
I'm the funniest.
How we met.
Yes.
I cold called you.
And this is part of my life story as well. You know, one of my questions to you guys is, what changed everything? What woke you up? Where did you guys wake up? And Scott was definitely part of my wake up experience. And let me, I guess, start a little bit earlier in time than that.
Please.
2013. I've always been, I call myself a prepared guy, right? Live with it, right? I've always had that mentality. Maybe it came from scouts, I don't know. But 2013, I'd been working a job for about 8-10 years. Was really tired of it, and more tired of my boss, right? Quit the boss, not quit the job. And so I quit my job in the spring of 2013 and had some money. So I started to move a little bit more forward toward preparedness, and started a few websites, shipping containers, solar power, those types of things, starting my own business, doing some real estate as well, something that Scott and I have in common. And as I started to delve into these little businesses, people would come into my life and, hey, did you hear about this? Have you heard about this? And, you know, one word in particular rocked my foundation. The word was Fukushima, right? Well, have you heard about Fukushima? It's like, no, I haven't. And I was beginning to be awakened, but I was not awake. And I'm not going to use the word woke, but I wake up more and more every day. But that really began my true wake up process. And as I created these websites, I got a call from a guy who was going to do, I got a message, who's going to do a preparedness expo. And I'm like, this has been on my long list for many years to do some type of a preparedness expo. So I called Scott immediately, and we sat down for lunch, and the rest is history, as they say. That was really the true beginning of my awakening, that there were others out there like me, because I still feel like the black sheep. I still feel, I would say not alone, but I stand by myself in many different things because I continue to separate myself from the world, if you want to use that phrase. So yes, Scott and I, we immediately hit it off, and I was Scott's gopher first. For the first two, I guess, prepper cons, and more than happy to. And
but you weren't just
fantastic.
a gopher.
No.
Shane was like, you probably did a fifth of all the booth sales.
Oh, I don't know about that, but a few. We got a few nice companies we got there that I think made a good difference. But it was definitely eye-opening to meet Scott. And then when I met Paris at was it the third one? Was it 2017? 2017 Expo. That was again very eye-opening as well. So happy to be here with you guys. And Paris, I know that you kept pushing us to start over again. Our final episode that we did at K-Talk Radio was December of 2018, and life was getting more complicated for Scott, for me, and it was just a good time to step off. And it was also a great reset as well for me. I've always been very focused on the gear, the preparedness, having the stuff that we need. And I think really that departing episode was about spiritual preparedness. And that's, like I said, that's just after Paris came into my life. And at that point, that's where I really, in my life, started to switch more toward the spiritual preparedness. Keep in mind that was always important to me, but just not as important as having the stuff, which is still something I focus on. But now that we've had some distance from K-Talk, from doing the live broadcasts, and more time to prepare, looking back with 2020 vision, I think we can now step into this new podcast and I think hopefully really make a difference with our experience, our learning, and the three of us multiplied instead of just one or two, now three. Mm-hmm. I'm very curious as to see how this will go.
Yeah.
Very a little nervous, a little apprehensive, but especially with what's going on nowadays. And of course the mindset, the thinking is, do we even have time? Is there any time left? Do people have time to get prepared?
I think the answer to that is absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely, we have time. And I think it goes back to Paris's example when he's like, God help me. I need more money to make this work. And if you're in those same shoes, you need to take that same approach. Everything that God's going to give you, he's going to give you, but magnify.
And I can testify to that as well, because that absolutely happened to me in my life the past couple of years. Long list of things to do, things I felt I needed to have to do to be prepared. And they have all come to pass. And we'll get into that in future shows. But all the things that I'm doing, you guys know how crazy I am, how extreme I'm going on my preparedness. Creating a homestead and having land and greenhouses and such, and that's things that I've been praying for and asking for many, many years, and they're finally coming to fruition. So that's awesome. Hopefully my experience can be of value to those who listen.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate both of you guys. You guys have been backbones in my life the last 4 or 5 years. But it's interesting because anyone that's on the journey of preparedness, they're going to find like-minded people. You guys listening, you've got your groups, right?
Yeah.
You've got your people that you commune with, that you talk to, you get ideas from. It's like, if I have questions on solar power stuff, I'm always going to call Shane. Why? Because Shane knows a crap ton more about that than I do. Like, Shane has generator systems figured out. He's got power systems figured out. Like, he's also better on the, guns and ammo side of things and self-defense types of stuff. And, we all have the things that we're good at, right? And the things that we've been drawn to. And when you get different people in your life that have been focused on a different aspect of preparedness, it enhances everything around you. And that's why it's so good to have a community. And that's why we're doing this again, is to build that community up and help you, as well as us, find more like-minded people, right? Yep. The listeners out there that you're listening right now, you're probably like, I've been thinking about this, I've been kind of alone, or maybe you've got a small group, but the whole goal is to help create more people, and maybe turn your neighbors into an ally instead of a possible enemy, right? When the crap hits, whatever the crap is, whether it's the loss of a job, whether it's, an actual invasion in our country, which we see happening right now in another part of the world, what you need to be doing and what you need to be preparing for is to not just take care of yourself, but also help other people out of the crap that's coming too.
Yep.
We feel like this is a community approach. Prepping is not an individual thing, because if you go back to it and try to make it an individual thing, you're going to die alone.
Yep.
Whether you think it's the alpha rule or any other way, it just doesn't work alone. You have to have a community behind you. And so that's why we're getting back into this. That's part of what we're doing. But the focus going forward is God, family, and country, guys. Focus going forward is, what can we do to help everybody? And we want your comments, we want your input, like wherever you're listening to us, whatever platform it's on, because we're on pretty much all of them. Make sure you're commenting below, because we're going to be responding to those. We're going to use that as future content. We want to hear from you guys, and you have things that we don't know that are going to be beneficial for the whole audience. So this is a community show now. Like, this is all about helping everybody up a rung higher in preparedness, physically and spiritually, and communally, helping the community. That's really what it's for. So as you guys are listening, just a reminder, please comment and make note of things and help us do better, because there's no way we can help you if we don't know what you're looking for.
Absolutely. Scott, we want to hear your story now. You've got about 12 minutes.
12 minutes. I don't know if I can. I'm so long-winded. I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
Well, I've been into prepping my entire life. Started more on the wilderness survival side of things, but we always had a year's supply of food in our pantry growing up. My dad he was a contractor. The guy's probably the best master craftsman I know, but as far as a businessman, he never really got his business growing. It never got big. And so we lived off just a little bit of money every year. I mean, we were right on the poverty line, maybe just above it. And I had to get school lunches. I had, like, in high school, I worked in the cafeteria. And the reason I didn't have to anymore, because my mom was working at the time, I didn't have to. I could have brought lunch, but I found out, and this is part of who I am, I found out that I could get twice as much food as the $1.75 lunch could get me if I worked in the cafeteria for 15 minutes. And lunch was 25, 30 minutes. So I'd work in there and my friends would make fun of me. And they had fun doing, oh, hey, lunch lady. And I'm like, eh. And then I'd come out with a giant tray full of food and they're like,
where'd you get all that?
Hutch, you got everything. And I'm all, yeah, I did. Like, how much money did that cost? I'm like, nothing. And I sit down and one of them like reaches over for one of my extra Twinkies. And I slapped his hand. I'm like, no, dude, that's mine. He's like, come on, share. And I'm all, no, I worked for this. I earned this. You mocked me, so you get nothing. And that's kind of like, I'm always like, okay, what can I do to get what we need? And or find a better way to do things. And so I partnered with the school, right? Like they had an opportunity for work in the cafeteria to get extra food. And I'm like, great, we need extra food at home. If I eat more here, I don't have to eat more home. And then I started doing the breakfast. But I've always been into like, okay, what can we do? What can we fix? What can we accomplish? And, you know, career-wise, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up, but I knew I wanted to be prepared. And I knew I wanted to be a dad, and I always wanted to be with God. And those things were the easy things for me. And as I continued, like I was single for a long time. I didn't meet my wife till I was 35, but I left Colorado. I ended up in Utah for a while, and under my bed, I had all my 72-hour gear. And actually I had enough stuff to get me home to Colorado. Because if the crap hits the fan, there's no place I want to be other than with my family. And then I moved to Arizona and I was like, crap, I don't think I'm going home ever again other than to visit. So I'm like, okay, this is my place now. So I raised my bed and I put food storage under my bed. And I had 6 months supply of food storage in my house. And I rotated stuff and I made sure I cooked all the time. And then I started eating out too often. But I always had stuff. And then I moved from there.
It's a different kind of food storage,
right? It's all on the belly. And I still have that problem. But in California, it was the same. As like, I had my stuff. I had a raised bed. I had even more stuff under it. I had 2 72-hour bags. I had a get home bag in my car. You know, I just had all kinds of stuff. I had water filtration and freeze dried foods. And one of my roommates in one of the last places I lived before I got married was like, dude, what is all that? And I'd been a self-reliance, you know, guy for years. I even in Arizona, I was the emergency preparedness coordinator for one of my wards. So it's always been part of who I am. And so I then turned that roommate on to emergency preparedness because he's like, what is all this? So then once a week I started cooking out of my food storage. And he's like, wow, that's actually really good. And he's like, that's under your bed? I'm like, yeah. He's like, amazing. And it totally changes his trajectory, right? But I always had this stuff. And so when I got married and my wife's like, yeah, my family's into preparedness. I was like, sweet. She didn't know she was getting into, but yeah, she thought her family was prepared. Our first fall together, I changed out my bags in spring and fall. I was like, give me your bag. I need to go through it. She's like, why? I'm like, you go through it every 6 months. You do? I opened it up. It hadn't been looked at for 7 years. All the food was like bricks. Everything. I'm like, this is bad. This is bad. Oh, some of your first aid's expired. Oh, this is bad. This is bad. Like, and there was no water. And I'm like, no water, no water filtration. Like, it was crazy. But like, it was one of those red bags you buy at like a survival shop, full of the crap that's going to kill you. And nobody checks it because they don't know any better. And I'm like, okay, we got to fix this. So I showed her what we do. Well, then I turned her into a monster of preparedness, and not just preparedness, but like she's a data junkie. She's an organization freak. And it's like, I love this about her because we have spreadsheets and we have redundancy of like, this stuff's over here. We got a recording of everything. Oh, we have all recording over here of everything. And so it's like, we've got stuff everywhere. I mean, I'm actually in our storage room now. It was supposed to be an office, but we've overrun it with stuff for other reasons. But we've got houseware stuff, and then we've got food, and then like, but that's just kind of the evolving of my life. And in all that, in those processes, I went to a Comic-Con. And at Comic-Con, I thought, wow, this is a lot of fun, but this is the stupidest thing because there's no value add in my life by being here.
Oh, be careful. Be careful.
No.
I'm just kidding.
No, I'm you guys know I'm a Marvel fanatic. I love comics. Yeah. I grew up on comics. Every Saturday growing up, I was at the comic book shop. Like that's part of life. But I was like, people are going around, they're spending all this money to get a picture of somebody. And I was like, I'm not interested. I'm like, that's not helping. And I think it was just because of the point in my life where I was like, something needs to change. People need to be like more prepared, and they're not. And they think it's weird, or it's such a weird group of people that do it. And it needs to be more practical, and everyone needs to do it. And so while I was sitting there at Comic-Con working a booth for my brother-in-law who's in Hollywood, I'm sitting there thinking there needs to be this kind of excitement and preparedness. And that was the biggest takeaway from Comic-Con. I'm like, it needs to be exciting. It needs to be fun. Everything I'd ever been to, all the fairs, all the expos, it felt like Ferris Bueller's Day Off classroom, where the teacher's like, Rogers, okay, Roger, Bueller, anyone, Bueller, and that was the canning specialist on the on the stage. Canning, anyone? You have a bowl, can you make sure it's clean? Canning, it was that boring. I'm like, there's nothing exciting about emergency preparedness, and it's not sexy. It's not exciting.
Oh yes, it is.
I'm
going to argue with it. Yeah.
Well, no, it's not. To most people, they listen to most people, hear about it. They're like, what is that? And I'm like, when you get it, when the bug hits you, you get excited to be self-reliant. You get it's like courage fills you, and you're like, I need to do this. This is great. You're empowered. And so I'm like, we need to take that to people. And the only way to do that is with excitement. And PrepperCon popped in my head, not the name yet, but the event. And it was from God. Like, God gave me the whole event. God gave me the name. Like, I was like, that's kind of an awesome name. I wanted to cuss there, but I'm trying to keep it PG. I was like, well, that's bad. That's sweet. That's awesome. And I'm like, let's do this. So then I got a brother-in-law involved, and then it turned into this giant, huge family and all the crazy conflicts. But it was a home run right out the gate. Like, we expected 5,000 people. We had 10,000. We expected, 8,000 people. The next year we had 12,000. Or our highest year was like 13,000 people in attendance. But over 3 years, 36,000 people came through the doors. It was phenomenal. Awesome. It changed a lot of people's lives, and that's actually where the radio show came from. It started off as PrepperCon podcast or PrepperCon radio.
First 40 episodes.
We didn't want to do a radio show.
Absolutely not. You kidding me? Me talk on live radio? Right? You don't do very well, do you?
But it was funny because Dick, the owner of K-Talk, was like, Scott, I love what you're doing. You need to do a radio show with us. I'm all, no, I don't. He goes, yeah, this would be so helpful, beneficial for the community. And I'm like, and he hit me with community. And I'm like, you jerk, that's my trigger word. I'm like, I have an obligation.
Helping others.
Like, I will not do this without a co-host. He's like, yeah, who do you want? And I'm like, there's only one person I know that has the knowledge, the camaraderie. And I'm like, it was easy. I'm like, Shane, you want to do this? He's like, no. And I'm like, will you do this? He's like, probably. He's like, dang you, Scott.
That's right.
Started.
And yeah, for me, it was definitely on the selfish side, because I'm such an introvert that I needed to break out of that box. I needed that experience. So, and I, of course, had to be forced and kind of compelled out of that box to move forward. And every single show for all 160 episodes or plus, I was nervous every single one. And that's just the way I am. But yeah, absolutely fantastic experience for me to open up and really fulfill my mission, what I'm supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. Me too. And now look at us. I mean, who would have thought 15, 20 years ago, any of us would be doing what we're doing now, right?
Exactly.
Well, there's no such thing as podcasts 15, 20 years ago.
Well, kind of on those same lines, I came back to Utah and I was like, you guys, we got to do this again. And you said the same kind of things to me. No, not right now. So what was, I mean, obviously I'm persistent, I'm in sales. I'm persistent. Like, I don't take no for an answer. So that's part of it. But what kind of prompted you guys? Like, I don't know who wants to go first, but like, what kind of said, you know what, let's do this. Paris finally prevailed, or what was it that kind of just prevailed upon you guys to say, all right, Paris, let's do this?
Well, I think as Scott kind of mentioned, when we did our last show, we were not planning on just never doing it again. We knew we needed to step back up and do this again at some point, but it took us, again, some prodding, kind of like the owner of K-Talk, say, hey, come do this.
Yeah.
And so we're definitely grateful, Paris. And we have a lot to say. I mean, I know I have a lot to say. I know Scott has a lot to say. Paris, I know you have a lot to say. Whether anybody wants to listen, that's another story, right?
Yeah.
But we have things that we need to say, that I need to say, that my Heavenly Father has told me that I need to say. And I've realized not everybody listens, and that's one thing that 2020 hindsight gives me, coming back into this, is I need to say what I need to say. And if nobody listens, that's fine. It just needs to come out of my mouth.
You did your part. That's all you can do. All you can do is all you can do. And all you can do is enough.
Amen.
Hope so.
And that's kind of the reason why I'm here too. Like God told me to do something, so I did it. I created the world's most exciting preparedness expo that's ever been. And hopefully somebody else does it again. I sold my shares and walked away because the Lord told me to, and put me on a different path for the next 4 years. And here I am again, back on the air. It's been a little while, but we're back, and we're supposed to be here. I was miserable in a job last year. I took a mortgage company role. I was loan processor and loan originator. I actually only originated one loan because I hated it so much, and it was Paris's loan for his house when we moved to Utah. The rest of the time I was processing loans, and it was the most toxic environment I've ever been in. And I was like, God, please, like, you keep bouncing me from like weird thing to weird thing in the last few years. And I almost felt like I had no choice anymore. I'm like, I want to do something, and I want to be successful again. And I want to charge forward, because the last 4 years I've been on bankroll of no, right? It's been pretty small. And before that, I was like, always had money to buy, I want another truck. Oh, I want some more deer. I want this, I want that. And I was blessed immensely. I was being prospered. And then it became time of scarcity for me. And the thing that I've learned is that no matter what, like, we're still okay. Like, God has taken care of everything to a point that, I may not know where the next paycheck's coming from or when. I know where it's coming from, but when, but there's always enough to carry us through. And if there's not, we've got our food storage that we're eating from all the time. Yep. And we're refilling it as we go. And so we found that no matter what we're doing, God's always in control. And so if you're listening to us now and you're like, man, what's going on in the world? What do I got to do? Just start. And God will lead you down the path to help you get prepared. That is the most important thing I can tell you. Just start. Listen and do. And use us as a resource.
Don't try and do it by yourself. Yeah, don't try and do it by yourself.
Yep.
Go over to our social media channels and ask us questions. That's what we're here for. Go to preppertalkradio.com. Subscribe. We're going to send out content all the time. We're going to be doing this every week. So listen to all the podcasts. Look at the resources we bring from our sponsors, from our hosts, each of us, but also our guests. Find what you resonate with, because that's going to be a skill you're going to bring to your group that you create. Or maybe you're part of a community already and you need enhancements. Like, let's communicate, let's camaraderie, and let's make something bigger and better than we had before. That's the whole purpose of us coming back, is we want to build a bigger, better community. Yep. And I almost sounded like that horrible build back better thing, but it's not that at all. It is 100%. We need to take responsibility for ourselves and our families so that we can help our country. Yeah. And the only way to do that is by following God. And
by making stronger families, you strengthen our country.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We need change. We need change in the country. We need change in ourselves. We need change. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And if you don't like what you got, then you got to change what you did or what you're doing. And awareness brings change. And that's part of our podcast. We want to make you aware of what we know, and hopefully you'll make us aware of what you know. And we'll all grow together and be edified together. That's the whole point, is to grow as a community. My strengths are in certain areas. Scott's strengths are in other areas. Shane's strengths are in other areas. And we don't want to come together and say, well, I'm stronger in this area than you, and be putting each other down. We want to build on each other's strengths. It's like, you're strong here, you're strong there. Let's combine my strengths with your strengths and build we need to find a better way to say that. And just find a way to edify.
Please don't say that.
We need to find a way to edify and change and make the right change in the world for what's happening, because we've got too many people been asleep. Too many people been just like, what the heck? We're all waking up right now saying, what the heck? What's been going on? It's time for change. And
definitely on the late side of the cycle to be waking up now, but better late than never. There's still time. It can still happen.
You know, one of the simplest things we can tell you right now is go get more food. Go get more food. The stuff that doesn't expire in 5 days, you know. And 2, go get seeds. And if you're not planting and growing a garden, plant and grow a garden this year. Make this year the year that you change that. Get some fruit trees, put those in. And we're going to talk about that in all the podcasts in the future. We're going to talk about more things and things you can do specifically to help get better prepared. But that is where we want you to start right now. If you have any food storage, it should be the canned items right now. Go get those. Why? Because those prices are going to increase and increase and increase, and the scarcity is going to increase and increase and increase. Right now, we've got truckers all over the United States that are on other missions doing other things to try to help preserve some freedoms. So the stores aren't getting stocked as fast. Get what you can right now, because we don't know what kind of hiccup could happen in the next 30 days, 90 days.
Exactly.
You want to give yourself that 90-day protection, right? And then once you have that, don't go, oh, I'm done. Now you start working on the longer stuff. And we'll get into that in the next episodes. But stick with us. Stay with us. Go listen to our old casts and listen to the new, because going forward, we're going to be talking about God, family, and country. We're going to be talking about what you guys leave as questions and comments in our different channels. And we're going to be talking about, number one, first and foremost, how we can build a better community around preparedness, around self-reliance, around God. So with that, we're going to sign off for today. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button. Join us. Get over to preppertalkradio.com and commune. Let's talk. We love you guys. We're appreciative that you're listening and that you're trying to do something to help your family and your neighborhood. Have an awesome day.
Catch you next week.
Take care, guys.